This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
I love this term. This is something that once you hear it, it makes complete sense. And you're like, well, hey, why did I never hear of it? Why haven't I never heard that before? Why did I never think of it before? And it's the term buyer brackets. Valerie, obviously,
is this anything like
is.
Final Four brackets in basketball or NFL brackets?
Basically, not at all the same.
Basically, not at all.
Yeah, but when I'm referring to buyer brackets, I'm talking about how people search for homes. Mm-hmm. So if you're searching, let's say under $1 million, the buyer brackets. So let's break it down. $750,000 to $1 million. Mm-hmm. Buyer brackets are probably $50,000. $750,000 or less, it's probably $25,000. Right. And what I mean by that is those are the increments that people set their search filters on the online real estate portals. Okay,
got it. That's interesting. Can you say that again?
Yeah, so the buyer brackets are how people search on their online portals. Yeah. So let's say your house is priced. The comps show and the appraiser says your home is worth $792. Okay, $792,000. The buyer bracket that we would recommend you go in would be $774. Right?
Really, that narrow?
You drop it to the next lowest buyer.
So
bracket.
What you're saying then is home shoppers are putting that window when they're in their search.
Yep.
That's how narrow the window is. You're telling me it's only how many thousands of dollars for?
Well, they have to put a cap somewhere, right? And so it's more. It's not necessarily there's not a low cap. There's a high cap. Like they won't go above $750. They won't go above $800. And so
for instance, like if the home was valued at $775, or that's what it's. I don't know. I'm a little bit confused.
Yeah.
Clarify it to me just a little bit more.
Can you help? I don't know.
I'll help. Yeah. So when buyers are, sometimes they don't even realize that they're doing this, right? But when buyers are searching for homes, they're setting a cap for themselves on their purchase price. So
correct.
If they're if they're approved up to $800,000, that's what their pre-approval is. Sometimes they'll still put their cap at $775 because they don't want to max themselves out, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or they want to have the extra negotiation ability to come in a little bit over.
So they don't go over though, because in my mind I would think, well, I've been approved for $800. I'm going to go to $850 because I'll maybe be able to negotiate down.
Right. It does work both ways.
There are people that do that, but there's still a cap. At some point, there's still a cap.
There's still a cap, and so when Johnny's saying, like, sometimes they're in $50,000 increments, sometimes they're in $25,000 increments.
Sometimes they're in $100,000 increments.
Depending on
how much
what bracket you're in is what you're saying.
Yeah. So basically, if the appraiser says the house is, and so then we're switching gears onto the seller conversation, right? So if the appraiser says your house is worth $792, it's best to put it under that $775 mark, or
You're right.
Yeah, $775. So pricing it at $774 or below, because if anyone has their cap at $775, then we're missing out on all those people if you priced it at $792.
And
that's very smart to think of it that way.
And they might be willing to pay more. People are like,
100%. Yeah.
What if? Well, I thought they can't pay more than that. And it's no. Most people are like, if you have the right property for this family or for this person, people will cash in retirement programs. They will reach out to friends and family. They will tighten their belts on their budget. They will do whatever it takes in order to get that property.
Right.
But in order for them to even have the desire to purchase the property, they have to know that it exists.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. That's good strategy. I've never thought of it like that before.
So those are buyer brackets.
Yeah.
So when we're meeting with people and we're going over pricing, we typically like to, do chips aren't $1, they're 99 cents.
Right.
So we go $7.74, in those buyer brackets. So just right below where that search filter would cut them off. So that way it's included in that search. And if you're not seeing any activity on the property, the best thing to do is then to drop it to the next buyer bracket based on your price point.
Which would be what? So you were at $774.
I would drop it. Yeah, I would probably drop. I mean, depends on how aggressive you want to get, but I would at least drop it to $749.
Yeah.
That would be the next bracket, $25,000 increments.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you saying it differs based on the bracket?
Yeah. I mean, it's just relative. It's basically a percentage, right? So percent of 10% of 10 is 1. 10% of 100 is 10, right?
Sure.
And so if you're talking about $2 million property, you drop it $25,000, you didn't move the needle a whole lot.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And so you didn't really expose it to a bigger segment of the buyer population by dropping it a little bit. And so the other interesting thing to talk about buyer brackets, because we have seen interest rates changing, is as a general rule, this is like a general rule, for every 1% change in interest rates, that influences 10% of the buyer population.
Yeah.
So let's say interest rates go down 1%, you just unlocked 10% more of a buyer pool than what you had previously.
Right.
The pricing hasn't changed. You just exposed your home to more people. Conversely, if interest rates go up by 1%, you just lost 10%. So when interest rates were in the high 2s and 3s, and they got jacked up to 7, you lost 40% of your buyer pool.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why prices stalled out, and we stopped seeing as aggressive appreciation that we'd seen over the previous time. But so that's buyer brackets. So if your realtor's not talking to you about buyer brackets or some term similar, make sure you're asking them, hey, what's your strategy around the buyer brackets?
That's smart. Yeah. And set up those expectations too, like if it's not doing well, if you're not getting as many showings as you would hope, then let them know, hey, this is our plan of lowering it down to the next bracket, right?
Yep. And setting expectations. Like that's so key, because people get frustrated because they're like, they don't understand what's happening next. They just want to know what's happening.
Right.
Even if homes are selling in like 15 days, pretty fast for real estate. Again, this isn't stocks, this is real estate. That's a fast, 2 weeks to get an accepted offer, but that's 14 nights of that person going to sleep wondering, why hasn't my house sold? What's it going to sell for? Does anybody like my house?
Yeah.
What are Valerie and Johnny doing to sell my house? Like there's all of these thoughts swirling around in their head. And so, but what we also like to do, I wanted to just touch on briefly too, is we talked about how interest rates are impacting affordability in the buyer pool and buyer brackets and all that. And Ryan Lundquist, who's been on the show before, love that guy. He recently came out with a blog. By the way, if you are thinking about buying or selling a house, check out Sacramento Appraisal Blog. If you're a real estate agent, you probably already know about Sacramento Appraisal Blog. This dude is a gem. He's a local appraiser, and so he provides local insight. It's not like getting your real estate information from a national perspective. You're getting a local Sacramento insight, and it's just go to Sacramento Appraisal Blog. And what he was saying recently on his blog was, and blog sounds like it's like the New York Times of blogging. Like it's really, and it's funny, it's good. So anyways, it's not.
What's it again? I'm going to look it up right now.
Sacramento Appraisal Blog.
There are always lots of funny memes and
Appraisal.
things
to
entertain you.
It's not as dry and as
Yeah, it's not. You're not going to be bored reading an article.
So whether or not you're in real estate or not, you're going to have a good time.
You're going to have a good time, and you're going to understand what's going on in the market. And so we oftentimes refer our clients to the Sacramento Appraisal Blog because.
Well, like his current blog says, the housing market has a 90s vibe.
Exactly.
Yep.
Sacramento.
I have no idea what that means, but
so what we like to do, like if we were to tell our clients something like that, they might look at us and go like, "You're a salesperson.
Right.
You're looking out for you. I know you have all these great reviews, and you've been in business a long time, and you're brokers, and blah blah blah. And Matt loves you over at the Fish, but." I'm still a little bit skeptical. And so what we are able to do is we send them over to the Sacramento Appraisal Blog, and they can read a local appraiser's perspective on what's happening in the market.
Right.
And what he was coming out, just spoke recently on, was how the real estate has a 90s vibe. And what he meant by that was mortgage applications and sales volume is at mid-90s levels. So even though there's 60 more people living in the state of California, or in the country, anyways, there's millions more people, it still has the mid-90s kind of vibe. And so that's pretty eye-opening for people.
Just like today's fashion styles.
It's like today's fashion styles. They're going back to the 90s. They're going back to the 90s. But
great.
Yeah. So if you are thinking about buying or selling homes, go ahead and reach out to us. Just go to madeformorerealty.com. You can Google us, check us out, read our 5-star reviews. And we're happy to give you some tips and tricks on how to get your home sold for the most amount of money. And part of it, you'll hear us talk about those buyer brackets.
And if you have any recipe ideas for Johnny to start cooking for his wife.
3 ingredients or less. Let's start basic.
And
15 minutes, 3 ingredients.
Little to no chopping involved.
Yeah.
Little to no chopping. I'm
microwave preferred.
Microwave, exclusive.
Yeah.
Microwave exclusive.